And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corp. Today on Tuesday, which is always what Lantern Corp is. But more importantly, welcome back. So, Din Djarin, the Mandolorian from CJM. What is his Lantern Corp? Din's a pretty fun character. I've always enjoyed the Mandalorian. Even season 3, I didn't think it was god awful. Just it was the weakest season of the 3 seasons. I think we can all agree on that, or at least the most of us can. If you thought it was the best, that's totally up for you to decide and feel. But what Lantern Corps does this guy actually belong in? So if we're going this way down and around, he's not only a Sorrow Lantern. Yeah, he suffered the loss of his family back when he was a kid, but that would be Sorrow is one of those things where you have to kind of have a true moment of pure, unadulterated sorrow. Otherwise, or you got sad your whole life, which is entirely possible. We don't still know to this date what the qualifiers to be a Sorrow Lantern really are. It would have to be a severe amount of depression, that's for certain. But he's certainly not a Gold Lantern either, not happy all of his life. Shame is one where, for a little while, he could have been, specifically during season 3, where he suffered the shame and indignity of, having his helmet removed in his face scene. But that got taken away. He regained his status among his Mandalorian, brethren. So I wouldn't say that as well. He's not a Life Lantern. Yeah, he's living. Yeah, he protects Grogu, but that's not enough. He's also not a Black Lantern. He's never died, and while he's got a good body count under him, I don't really think that's a true embodiment of death. He'd have to revel in death and enjoy death for that, I think, to work. Now we get into the ones where it's a little bit more difficult to figure it out. Hope, for example, he certainly holds on to a certain level of hope, a certain level of faith. And people put their trust and faith in him, to be sure. But I don't think hope really works in his favor. He's also not a greedy man, so I would not say avarice is likely. And compassion, while he certainly has it, I don't think it's his dominant trait. You're, I think, stuck in the top 4. Now, with that being said, I don't think he's a Rage Lantern. Now, he's never really wanted revenge. He seems pretty content with his lot in life. Yeah, he has to also, what's the best way to put it? Yeah, he seems content with his life, but he's also got a little bit of, he meets someone for his past, like Moff Gideon, he wouldn't mind putting him in the ground, but at the same time, it's not his end goal. Like, he's not Bo-Katan. If this was Bo-Katan, I would actually say Rage would not fit her too bad. Or would not be a bad fit. So ultimately, I would say, yeah, Rage doesn't work, but there's probably a lingering a bit of, anger in there, certainly. But I think it comes down to a core 3. Green is the first one. This is a guy who's got a lot of willpower and overcoming great fear, kind of what a Mandalorian does on a daily basis. So great willpower's got to be on the list. Fear is one where I think it's among the top 3. I actually think it's the weakest of the top 3. Not because Mandalorian, not because Din Djarin doesn't carry a reputation with him. He does carry a reputation with him. And people are scared of him. At least, criminals are. And even, civilians are somewhat afraid of him. But that's kind of waned in the more recent seasons. Add on to the fact that even with his reputation, opponents still think they can take him on. They're not immediately scared of him. He usually has to put the fear in them. Like the guy he strung up in season 2, looking for information. Like the guy wasn't afraid of him initially, and then basically he's hanging him over a wire, and the creatures of the night come to get him. Just that's where that's where the fear starts to kick in. But is that fear Mando or the situation he's put you in? That's the scenario. Last but not least, though, I think love has to be a consideration because ultimately, when we get down to it, what is Mando doing and why is he doing it most of the time if not for love of Grogu? He loves that kid. And so he definitely, I think, he cares enough and does a lot what he does for Grogu and for the sake of Grogu and the safety of Grogu to be considered for the Lantern Corps love. So, which is it? Green or love, or green or love, will or love, green or sapphire. That is a real tough one, green or sapphire. Ultimately, if I have to break it down, and that's all I can really do here, I would lean towards green because green's more consistent throughout his entire career, whereas love came about because of Grogu. So for these 3 seasons we've had him, but at the same time, you could make the argument it has overridden his will. But will and love are not mutually exclusive. They are two emotions that can be tied together. So, you've got a huge amount of willpower for the one you love. Does that mean that you're doing what you're doing out of love, or that your willpower is overriding that? It's an interesting question, to say the least. I will say that I think if we were to look at him through his entire life, he's probably more likely a Green Lantern, even though we haven't seen him through his entire life, mind you, but we know from his backstory and all that what he's kind of been doing. But if we were to go past that and think of just what has happened during the events of the Mandalorian series, he might have leaned more into love. So if I were to think of where Mando and Grogu, or where Mando lands after the events of season 3, it's probably love. Just because we get that great shot of him just sitting there on that property, looking at Grogu, just letting him grow up. It's a nice shot, absolutely. So yeah, ultimately, I think I would lean towards love. Green is, though, the immediate second option. I think that's fair to say. But anyway, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Who do you got in what? Oh, sorry. What do you got for what Lantern Corp? Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase that sentence again. What Lantern Corp do you got for Din Djarin? Let me know in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.